Welcome to this video blog. My name is Tyler Valencia, President and CEO of KIPS, the Kinesiology Institute of Performance Specialists. With me, I have Jason Dolby, the President of Cali Caveman Strength and Conditioning and co-head instructor of the Orange Kettlebell Club. Say hey, what's up, Jason? Yes.
Tyler, is my tie straight? My tie look okay?
Looks great as always. Yes. So today,
hey guys, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Tyler, who I believe just became basically like #1 dude in California in the Highland Games. I'm just saying. So that's a legit athlete right there, Mr. Tyler. Congrats on that.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. So today we have Jason here. Jason is a master instructor with kettlebells. He's going to talk with us about the application of kettlebells with different types of populations. So athletes, elderly, or even just your regular Joe and Jane Smith off the street. Recently, what we did at KIPS is we developed a exercise selection model. So on one side, you have your performance-based exercises. With performance, we want to make sure that it's not just athletic performance we're talking about. In daily life, performance goes on. So whether you're getting out of bed, you're brushing your teeth, you're tying your shoes, performance happens. And therefore, we want to make sure when we say performance, we're not just talking about athletic performance. And then on the other side of this model, we have a template. So it's very popular these days that we see templates with educational companies such as NASM. You have the OPT model. With Nesta, you have the assess, instruct, design, reassess model. These, nothing against them, but these models, they provide a template for personal trainers to provide exercises or even take their clients through different programs. But when you mash those together, what you have is individualizations, which you get through assessments. So you got your PAR-Qs, you got your health history, you got your performance-based models. And in there, that's where you create that individualization, which we, in the industry, that's what you want. That's what you're hired to do as a strength coach, as a personal trainer. And so today, what we have is Jason to talk with us about those different populations and how he applies kettlebells. We've seen the rise of kettlebells throughout the years and its different applications. So Jason, why don't you take us through first the elderly population and what kind of exercise and how you choose those with your clientele?
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you, Tyler. The elderly population is one of my most favorite populations to work with. When when I was going to college at El Camino, there was a scenario that took place in my family where we had the live-in caretaker for my grandfather and my grandmother at the time. Basically wrote a Dear John letter and he was gone. He just kind of deuces, ran out, so on and so forth. I had just turned 21 years old at that time, and my father, Master George Dolby, teaches Korean karate in Lakewood since 1970. Anyway, go check him out, Dolby Subako, if you get down there. But so he asked me at that time if I would take over as a live-in caretaker, and I had just turned 21, so big. That was kind of a big decision. I didn't know. I was nervous. I didn't know what to say. It's my family, whatever. So I asked him, give me a day or whatever. I get back to him in a few hours. I say yes. I take the job, and in literally 1 or 2 days, I went from a boy to a man like that. Like it was just instantaneous, and what a great experience being able to work with my grandfather and my grandmother. And it was about 3 years that I was there. Before they passed on, and I just at that time in those precious years, I just really developed a real respect and a real interest in the well-being of seniors, because baby, they've been there, they have done that, and they will share it the way that they think it. It's just no filter. They just share whatever, like little babies or whatever, like little kids, no filter. But you get what's so real and so genuine from a person when they're in that part of their life, and you can learn so much from them. So after they had passed on, I applied to be an athletic trainer, coach at Spectrum Athletic Club, where I was for 10 years, and that's obviously where I met you, Tyler. But it just, my interest, it's never left, and I'm 40 years old now, and I was 21 when I took on that amazing opportunity, I will call it, because it really was an opportunity in education and learning your family, learning, becoming closer with your family members. And so now working with seniors, I just really have a blast, and I always just take just a little bit extra time listening and really paying attention to their needs. And with seniors, as with anybody, whether you have just kind of the weekend warrior who might be middle-aged and, tweaks himself every now and then because he's hard-headed or whatnot, or you have maybe a teenager who's coming up in sports, is just developing and also learning coordination. You have to step back, pay attention, and individualize. And this is part of our talk right now.
Mm-hmm.
But with the seniors, it's really a great thing. I use many tools, not just kettlebell. Kettles, of course, are my love for sure. But I use many different tools with my seniors. But incorporating the kettlebell it's a no-brainer. It's so nice. It sits, got a flat bottom, sits on the floor, and the handle comes up, half a foot to a foot or something, depending on the size of the kettlebell. So with seniors, a lot of times they lose strength in just going down and picking something up off the floor, right? I like to share this analogy with anyone who comes to one of my educational workshops, or if we're teaching even an OKC workshop or whatnot, but the human skeletal system is really like a cement mixer truck, right? So you see them driving down the road, and what do, right? Truck's always spinning, right? Because the wet cement's in there, and boom, always spinning, because if it stops, then it coagulates, it hardens, turns to concrete. Concrete breaks, it doesn't flow, right? So we want to flow. So we want to keep spinning, in other words, keep moving. So flowing with joint mobility, just simple movements, whatever it may be, very, very important. Now, if you retire, let's say at age 55, 60, 65, whatever, and then you just pump the brakes and you just stop and you don't do anything, and you sit in a chair or at the computer on Facebook and sharing, pictures of your cat falling into hummus and things like that people kind of get accustomed to and fall into, then they're not moving as much, right? So just simple movements are really, really important, but maybe not necessarily giving senior citizens, at least from the get-go, a dynamic movement such as the kettlebell swing, which involves a tremendous hip hinge, and there's a lot of speed of gravity on the way down, very dynamic, very explosive. Don't necessarily want to start there. And a lot of my seniors, I never actually get to the point where we're doing swings even, or cleans or anything like that. But, for example, just a single kettlebell on the floor, a deadlift starting from a block, right? So individualization, very, very important. We must experiment always experiment, right? Trial and error, not just for ourselves, but for our students, our clients of any age. So a deadlift, right? Kettlebell deadlift with a single bell starting on a block. And that block can be higher,
nice.
Can be smaller, right? Depending on the range of motion of the individual. So seniors, a lot of times, they don't have the kind of range of motion you would see in, like, a 20-year-old or 15-year-old or whatever. You're not going to see that on average, right? So as they're gaining flexibility, and mobility through their joints and so on over training sessions, you kind of feel out where they are. You test them, and then you ask them, like, all right, how does this feel? Does this feel okay? The way I describe it, it's actually kind of funny, similar to a diagram you showed me earlier. But with mine, let's see if I could do this here real quick. I'm a visual person, so I use trinkets all the time to describe things, right? So you have these coasters, right? And so let's say get this in the camera, right? All right. So let's say this one, right? This is a comfort zone, and this one is a pain zone, right? So comfort zone, whichever one I'm getting mixed up. Comfort, pain, whatever. It's backwards on that. So, right, if this one here that I'm touching is comfort zone, right? You can move up to that border that I'm touching right there, that's the border between comfort and discomfort, or comfort and pain, right? So it's okay to get kind of close to discomfort if it's musculature, burn, whatever you feel, lactic acid, or challenge muscles are pumping. But we don't want to cross over to this guy here, because this is the zone or the nation of pain. This is the nation of comfort. So this is kind of how I talk to them about leading through a range of motion. You can go up to the border between comfort and discomfort, or comfort and pain, but don't come over into the pain, because then your whole nervous system is just going to send the signals out to just tense up, lock down, and then they can't do what they want to do correctly. So you find your range of motion through trial and error, talking to them, or you can go the rate of perceived exertion or rate of perceived comfort, and you say, out of a scale of 1 to 10, hey, Bill, how does this feel when you touch your knees? And he's like, oh, that's an 11. And I was, oh, that's bad. Okay. So we don't want to go to an 11 on a discomfort scale or whatnot. So maybe you start him at like a 5 or a 6 or something like that, maybe a 7. So maybe he just is only able to keep his legs straight and come down with his fingers to, 4 or 5 inches above his knee. That's fine. Great. You have your safe starting point where it's kind of a sweet spot for them at that point in time. That's all going to change. But that's the spot that you would, let's say, then adjust your blocks, your plyo box, whatever, and then you can apply, right? You can apply the kettlebell deadlift now, and you just have to measure it out. So most people can go lower than 4 or 5 inches above their knee, but just as an example, right? I want to share that to be aware. So that could be a wonderful starting spot for them to do the kettlebell deadlift. 2 hands on one kettlebell handle, right? And it's not threatening. They know it's just like down and up, down and up. People use the restroom every day, so they're pretty much going parallel in a squat or lower every day. Even if they need assistance to get down and get up, they're still flowing through that range. And a lot of times doctors or physical therapists will crack me up, and they'll say things to them like, don't ever let your knee ever go, past your foot forward, or don't ever squat down lower than, this angle right here. Don't ever go to parallel. But they use the restroom, so they do every day anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So trial and error. You watch them, watch with your seniors, find their range, and then adapt to their range. So a sequence that I like to go through with them using the kettlebell, because it's so perfect for this. Much smoother and easier than dumbbells that roll away, and dumbbells, like, they don't have a handle that stands up tall or whatnot. So with a kettlebell, single kettlebell on the floor, right? And you can start with the blocks. Then you work down to where they can get to the floor with the kettlebell. And then you can go into a suitcase deadlift, right? Which now you have a kettlebell in each hand. And so you're kind of hanging here like you were carrying 2 suitcases, right? And now you would test their range. No kettles, of course. Test their range. Test that comfort zone versus discomfort zone. Find that area of range of motion for them as the individual. And then you set up 2 blocks, bam, underneath on either side of the person, right? So now they're able to come down, do their kettlebell deadlift at the range that's comfortable with 2 bells now, 1 in each hand. Then you work that one down to the floor. However long it takes is fine, doesn't matter. They're moving in the direction of positivity, so it doesn't matter how small the steps are when you are moving in the direction of positivity. Bam! So then you get to the floor with the double, right? With the double, the suitcase deadlift, and so on and so forth. And it's really, really just a great thing. And I have people in their 80s doing this movement, right? And so
that's awesome.
I don't have any desire to take my 80-year-old student and say, all right, now we're going to do snatch, and then, clean and jerk long cycle. It's just not really, he doesn't care about that, right? She doesn't care about that. I want to make them move better and feel better. So I've been running my mouth a lot there, but with the seniors, it's very important, again, to, you kind of mentioned like assess, reassess earlier, and I say experiment, right? Learn from it, then apply, and then experiment again by new trial and error with different range of motion and stuff like that. Always being willing to be creative, be innovative, and experiment with the individual. Try different things, but be very aware and be always be always be engaged with them, how they're feeling at this moment in time or whatnot, so that you're always there. And oh, that feels a little bit bad. You know what? Okay, you're seizing up a little bit. The quadriceps starting to shut down. Whatever it may be. All right, we're going back down. Come back over to that zone, the comfort zone, right? And then move on to the next exercise or whatnot.
That's perfect. That's perfect, Jason. You know, hearing you talk about working with the elderly and with kettlebells, sometimes people will often assume that kettlebells are mostly, for athletes or, something that they see in the gym, but they don't quite equate them to being applicable to elderly. And just in, hearing you talk about it today, you went over multiple different ways that you can use this tool, the kettlebell, as a tool to work with that population so that it applies to their daily activities, not just getting them up and moving, but applying that stressor, that stress in the form of the kettlebell to them so that they can improve that daily function. Because as we know, working with the elderly, they're not going to want to be doing the snatches and all these different types of swings,
Right.
but helping them out and getting them to better range of motion, making their life easier, all those types of different things. It's great for them. Jason, this was great, great, great stuff. Thank you for taking the time to coming and talking with me and sharing with the rest of the KIPS population. Again, we got Jason Dolby right here, president of Cali Caveman Strength and Conditioning and co-head instructor of the Orange Kettlebell Club. Thank you guys. If you like this stuff, make sure that you follow Jason, and we got more of this stuff coming through the KIPS education. Thank you very much, Jason.
All right. Thank you, Tyler.
Perfect.